by Ranch Masters Ranch and Home Realty out of Lake Whitney, Texas. Hey, thanks everybody. We're coming to you live from Huron, Texas, at our worldwide headquarters. And today we got Bryce Cherry from the Waco trip. Bryce, how you doing, man?
Good, Kenny. How are you?
Good. Thanks for hopping on. We had I think Terry's got I know Terry's out. He's got COVID, so got Bryce on. He is the know all in Central Texas football, the guru for Waco trip. Bryce, a good week last week. A couple interesting games. You know, District 5, 3A here in Central Texas. Just it's so competitive. Several of the games, I think there's only two or three games. It's more than a one score win. Two games went in overtime last week. We'll talk about them. Before that, let's get into another really competitive district in 12, 4A D2 District 12. Lorena China Spring last week. They're both 2-7 after this game, both 1-3. China Spring was down late, came back and scored, held Lorena there at the end. I believe they got an interception with 9 seconds left. Really, I didn't watch the game. I saw some highlights, a back and forth game. Really shaped up to be kind of a classic. What was your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, two proud programs that have had a lot of recent success, and obviously this year, not so much. I mean, it's been really strange this season to go through and have teams like Lorena, China Spring, and Crawford, down on the struggle bus, really. I mean, and as you mentioned, I mean, it was a back and forth, just kind of really exciting game that came down to the wire. That's kind of what I expected, just because I called it on our podcast, the Desperation Bowl. China Spring obviously had to win. It was a season saver for them. And, now they still have some hope. I just thought with kind of the pride they had, I thought they would be able to pull it out, and they did. I mean, but yeah, it was a wild one. We had one of our freelancers there, Brian Coates, at that game, and just reading his game story, it was a pretty exciting game, clinched, as you mentioned, by an interception by Ryan Hale, in the last few seconds. So.
Yeah, that was a good one. Now, we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Just the schedule of games for the week 11 for that one. We'll talk about it here in a little bit. So let's go to Grandview West. Another great game, overtime. I watched a little bit of it on my way to Groesbeck to go watch Whitney Groesbeck. It was 7-0 early. West was up. West was inside their 5, about to go 2-score lead. Something I don't know what happened, but at halftime it's 14-14, kind of a back and forth battle. They go to overtime. West does kick the field goal to take the early lead. Then Grandview comes back and scores a touchdown. So that sets Grandview up for with Mahia for the district championship. Aiden York, I think is West's third string running back. He went 26 carries for 95 yards. They're young at quarterback. Dub Miller's just a sophomore, replaced his brother from last year. Or Dub Crane, not Dub Miller.
Dub
That's
Crane,
an old singer-songwriter showing my age. Wes is just, Coach Woodard does, I used to say this about Craig Horn, I still do, does more with less. And I think, and not taking anything against Wes, but Coach Woodard does more with not less, but he just does really well. When you think Wes is going to be down, they're still going to be there at the end of the year, in the thick of it. Great game. What's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, just a fun district, and we've talked about it all year that I feel like the two teams that wouldn't make the playoffs in this district were going to be a lot better than a lot of even playoff teams that are out there. I mean, to me, you look at Groesbeck, who we'll talk about, I guess, but they were 4-1 in non-district. And so it's just been a really, really competitive district. I mean, you see what West's defense has been able to do week in and week out. To me, they're kind of the story of the Trojan team. I mean, a really, really stout defense. And, I mean, that will keep you in games. Obviously, with the injuries that West has had, that's been tough. But, they've been hanging in there. And, took Grandview right down to the wire. So, they score first in overtime, I think, on a field goal. And then obviously Grandview gets the touchdown pass to win it. But I think, the old cliche is, well, there's a couple cliches about defense that we know. Defense wins championships. I'm not sure West is a championship team, but the other cliche is defense travels. And, when your offense is struggling, if your defense can keep you in it, then you got a chance, man. And that's what West is doing. It's giving itself a chance. I think, if we look ahead to this West Whitney game, to me, if you're just dumbing it down, like if it's a slugfest, it favors West. If it's a shootout, it favors Whitney. I think Whitney probably has the more explosive offensive pieces, but West clearly has a really rugged defense.
Yeah, and that's kind of Coach Woodard's MO. They want to run the ball, and they're going to stop the run. And Coach Souders does a great job over there. He's been their defensive coordinator for a long time. Really does a good job over there. Their back was against the wall. They needed a couple of things happen. First, they needed Grandview to beat West. They got that. That happened about midway through the third quarter because I don't know if that game started at 7 or just Whitney Groesbeck was such a barn burner. It just took so much time. But Whitney won 74-41.
I think they're still scoring in that one.
Yeah, they just scored again. Trent Platt at Groesbeck, I don't know that he gets enough credit for just how good of a football player he is. Talked to Coach Haynes today in his coach's show, and he said he's kind of a generational type quarterback. He's been starting for Groesbeck since he's a freshman when their quarterback went down midway through the year. And then, he started his sophomore, junior, and his senior year. The kid's got a rocket arm. He's fast. He's not huge, but very underrated, and they're missing their sophomore, Jordan Smith. I think he's been out for a couple of games. But they score 41 on Whitney. Whitney's kind of a Jekyll and Hyde defense. You look at the defense that held West Mark to 7 points in the beginning of the game. The defense that held a Rogers team that was averaging 50 points a game to 13 points, held Hillsboro to 12. But their offense is finally clicking. I think they kind of got in the funk when Jonte Johnson got injured at the first half, into the first half of that Academy game, and really only scored 7 points in the first half combined of Maypearl and Grandview. At Mejia, they scored some points, but they gave up a ton of points, and now they're kind of rolling against Groesbeck. Mason Seeley, 200 yards, several touchdowns. Devion Walter, who has replaced Jonte, he rushed for over 100 yards. Angel Saucedo, almost 100 yards. So the running game's doing well. Now, we'll talk about it here in a minute. That's going to be a big game. And then you go to Maypearl. Did you get to watch any highlights of that Whitney Maypearl Groesbeck game? Did y'all have anybody there? I don't remember seeing a write-up.
We did not have anybody at that one, but man, it's crazy to think that those two teams combined for 115 points, and like you said, Jonte Johnson isn't even on the field for Whitney. 74 is a lot of points. It looks like a 6-man score when you look at it for sure. And so, I do think that's a good sign for Coach Haynes and his team because, it means they're trending up in that direction for sure. Like you said, I think when Jonte first got hurt, they had to figure some things out. But I give it up for these teams that have been able to, navigate the injuries and come out on the other side. I've covered a team like that all year in Midway who's just had one injury after another to really key players. And so, they just keep winning. So give it up for Whitney, who's at least put itself, in position. And then, like I said, to me, Groesbeck and Trent Platt, you're not going to see a better 6th place 3A district team, out there. That's a really explosive team, and they're just kind of the victim of a competitive district and losing some games that were close. They were 31-28 to West. they've scored the most points anybody's scored on West in district play. So, I mean, that's a better team than people probably realize.
Yeah, I agree with you. Maypearl, Mahia, speaking of a better team that kind of we thought, Maypearl, I thought really impressive. They hung with Troy pre-district. I think it was a 28-21 ball game. They played really well. I really like Troy. Unfortunately, they're in that horrible region with Franklin and Hitchcock and Columbus. That's going to be tough to get out of that one. So they go to Mahia. I think believes go Maypearl is at Mahia. They go to overtime. Mahia, I think, holds them. Maypearl had the ball first, held them. Mahia scored 17-10. Cooper, who had the big game against Whitney, almost rushed for 400 yards, went over 100 yards again, 26 for 119, 115. Their running game is going. They got a good quarterback, Blanchard, I believe. Forgot his name. He's really good.
Braden Wilson, yeah.
Braden Wilson, yeah. Blanchard to Lorena, my bad. So another competitive game, just about like every game in district. I'm looking forward to that Mahia Grandview game. I think they're both going to run the ball well, and they both, Mahia. I would give the advantage to Grandview's defense over Mahia's. That's going to be a good one. Did you get to see any of the highlights on this one?
Just some of the stats and stuff, but to me, Mahia is, I sit here and talk about resiliency with injuries and stuff. There's no more resilient team in Central Texas this year than the Mahia Blackcats. I mean, what they had to endure, losing one of their teammates, and then the very day that they put that kid to rest, they go out and play, probably the game of their season against Groesbeck, rivalry game. And I felt like going into that night, I was like, there's no way these kids are going to be ready to play. This is just too much, and give it up for Coach Knoll and that staff for having them ready. And just, they've just continued to stack good performances on top of each other. And yeah, that's a great overtime win over Maypearl. Puts them in the, position to try to knock off Grandview and get that district championship. But at any rate, they're going to be playing in week 12. So, Mahia's sneaky. I mean, they could do some damage. I just think that this district, the 4 playoff teams, because of the gauntlet they've had to go through, I think they're going to be well prepared for the playoffs. Now, you always wonder, if they beat up on each other too much, that you always worry about that little factor of it. But, I mean, I just think they're going to be accustomed to playing close games and know how to, pull out close games. They're not going to panic because, every game in this district seems to go like that. Hey, Kenny, I lost your audio, man. I can't hear you. There you are. I got you.
There we go. Yeah, this microphone likes to go off. I got to unplug it and plug it in. So, yeah, I agree with this. It's a very tough district. I agree with you on that. They're going to be battle tested. I don't know that they're going to challenge a Jefferson or a Malakoff for a region championship. I think there's a team or two in there that probably go 2 or 3 rounds deep, and make a little bit of noise. So let's talk about District 538. You've got Mahia Grandview for the district championship game. The winner will be the champion because whoever wins that game will have the head-to-head. And then you go to West Whitney, which that'll be more than likely. I don't see any other scenario where it wouldn't be the fourth place. The winner goes on and the loser goes home. Whitney is 1-3. West is 2-2. If Whitney beats West, they'll be tied 2-3. Whitney would have the head-to-head. If West wins, then they're 3-2. They get then Whitney's out of it because they'll only have one district win. So that's going to be a big one. They moved that game to Thursday night because of the weather. I talked to Coach Haynes. He thought that there's a greater chance for thunderstorms on Friday night than there are Thursday night. So He and Coach Woodard kind of talked about it and said, yeah, let's move it Thursday. That'll be a good one, and that's kind of make it a little bit more people in the house that, some media type folks may come up to come watch that one. I think it'll be a good one. Big time rivalries. Whitney got them last year. They kind of flip flop back and forth the last year or two. I just think if you're West, you're going to run the ball down Whitney's throat. I mean, because Whitney has proven they just can't stop the run. Jacques Cooper almost rushed for 400 yards on him. You look at the running back from Academy. He ran for almost 200 yards. Grandview, they had, I think it's Dominguez and Hubbard, number 0, number 5. They just ran all over Whitney. So I think it's pretty obvious. West is going to come out here and run the ball down Whitney's throat. Maybe, they'll have Dub Crane throw a pass or two. They like to throw those quick slants. And if you're Whitney, I don't know that you're going to try to run the ball against West. The defense is really good. Like you said, Grossbeck scored 28 on them. I think Robinson had 26, and that took 2 overtimes to get to 26 points. And we know what kind of team Robinson is. So I think Whitney's probably going to spread it out and try to out-athlete them on the outside a little bit. And maybe that might soften them up the middle. That's what I think. What about you?
Yeah, no, like I said, I agree. I mean, I just think that an up and down game certainly favors the Wildcats, and then more of a grinded out kind of game. You mentioned it. I mean, Coach Woodard. There's a lot of football coaches who love that formula of let's run the ball, let's play defense, and let's keep the other team's offense off the field. Let's do some slow burn type drives, and so I think, that's West's path to victory. And like you said, I think if Whitney can open it up and score on some big plays and some over the top stuff, then that would really favor the Wildcats. The one question I have, because I agree with you that it seems pretty cut and dry that this will be, just the play-in game for 4th. I guess it would get interesting if somehow Groesbeck knocks off Maypearl, and then Whitney knocks off West, and you get a little 3-way tie there at 2 and 3. I haven't done any of the math on the numbers on that. I assume there's some sort of point differential in that district, but that would cause a little chaos, I guess, if and we've sat here and we've talked about how Groesbeck's a better team than people probably realize. I wouldn't think they would knock out Maypearl, but I mean, it's not like they're just some team that's going to get run over either.
No, this isn't a Live Oak Cliff or a Gateway. Let me ask you this. So say Whitney beats West, Groesbeck beats Maypearl. So you got 3 teams sitting there at 2 and 3 in district.
Mm-hmm.
Maypearl, West, Whitney. Now Maypearl has beat West and Whitney. So if you're a 3-way tie, have you found? I mean, I don't know a whole lot about it. Do districts do any kind of head-to-head when it's a 3-way tie, or is it just go to point spread maybe?
Well, so this is a great question, and I will just give you an example because here I am going into Midway's last game thinking, so Midway, the 4 teams in that district are set. It's Midway, Harker Heights, Temple, and Shoemaker. Temple and Midway are going big school. Harker Heights and Shoemaker are going small school. And so I'm thinking if Midway wins tomorrow on Thursday against Copper's Cove, which they should, they will have a head-to-head win over Temple and would get the number 1 seed. And so now I'm talking to Joe Gillespie today at Midway, and not so fast, my friend. They use the friggin' point differential as their primary tiebreaker. And so, yeah, I think it just depends on the district, and that's why you got to talk to these coaches and find out, which is, it's a lot of work, but yeah, it's crazy. So here's the deal. I mean, basically, even though it, like in the Midway example, if Harker Heights wins, it's the outright district champion. If it loses and Midway wins over Cove, Midway, Temple, and Harker Heights would share the district championship, even though that would be cool for Midway. They're kind of hoping Harker Heights just takes care of business against Temple, so they just automatically get that 1 seed. Because here's the deal, and I know this wasn't even on our list of things to talk about.
No.
The 2 seed in the big school gets Waxahachie. The 1 seed in the big school for 12-6A gets Waxahachie at home, no less. So Midway would play Waxahachie at Panther Stadium. If you're the 2 seed, you get Duncanville. Yeah. So there's a very good reason to get that 1 seed. So the point differential on that is Midway is -5 because they beat Temple by 3. They lost to Harker Heights by 8. So they're -5. And so if Temple beats Harker Heights by 6 or more, Midway is the 2 seed in the big school. And they're playing Duncanville at Duncanville. Yeesh. Yeah. So it was a long way of saying it just depends on the district. I mean, and so I don't know 5 of 3A's, primary district, but yes, it makes sense that head-to-head would be your primary tiebreaker, and most of the districts go that way.
Well, I asked Coach Haynes today, and he said, "I'm just going in it like if we win, we're in." So he didn't want to get into details.
That's a good call. Worry about the semantics later.
Yeah. Before we leave 5-3A, we talked about injuries, how Midway's going through injuries. So if you would look at 5-3A back in June, Grandview still had Julio Allen, who transferred to Crowley. We know what happened at Mahia. They lost their player, and Clish at West. So all these teams, I don't know Maypro, but Whitney lost Jonte Johnson. So they're all kind of different teams than what we kind of thought they were going to be back in June. And of course, we didn't know, and Grossbeck lost the Jordan Smith. I don't know I know he hadn't played in several games. I don't know what happened there. I haven't talked to Coach Bomar about it, but he didn't play against Whitney, I know for sure. And so this whole district, is really competitive. We knew it was going to be competitive. It kind of changed because just about every team lost one of their best players due to injury or a transfer or whatever. So really interesting there. So we got Mahia, Grandview for the district championship. I'm sure y'all picked that game. This won't go out till tomorrow afternoon sometime. So who do you think?
I think I picked Grandview, but it certainly would not surprise me if Mahia wins that one. Like I said, this district has just been pretty tough to pick, really. Yeah. I mean, if you get the 3 district games on a given night, all 3 of them right, you've done something. Go buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah, good luck with that. All right, let's skip over to 4AD2 District 12. So we talked about the Lorena China Spring game, China Spring. So got that win. So now you got China Spring, Lorena, and Gatesville all at 1-3. Do you see any upsets this week? Or what's the most likely upset you think?
Well, here's the thing. It would be a big upset, obviously, if China Spring beats Robinson. That would have been crazy for us to think back in the summer, but obviously the way the season has gone. But here's the deal. I mean, basically Robinson has nothing to play for this week. Robinson is locked into 2. La Vega is locked into 1. Those 2 spots are set.
Yeah.
So if Coach Lancaster and the Rockets, I don't think they'll do this, but if they just wanted to, take the last week of the NBA season route and rest their dudes, for the playoffs, they could do it. And, and China Spring, meanwhile, is, fighting for its playoff life. So, I mean, there's a recipe there for an upset. All that said, I picked the Rockets. I think Coach Lancaster will want to get some momentum, going into the playoffs. And same for I don't really see this Lorena team beating this La Vega team. I think that's a tough ask. I think La Vega is kind of peaking at the right time. They entered the state rankings this week. They're number 10 in 4AD2. And truthfully, they've got some good teams in their region like Belleville and West Orange Stark. West Orange Stark, they've already played. That's the thing. I mean, La Vega has played just a gauntlet of a schedule. So when they get in a game, let's say they get West Orange Stark again in the playoffs, they're not going to be intimidated by them. I mean, they've seen them once. Obviously, West Orange Stark won, but I just think La Vega's finding its groove at the right time. So then you've got Gatesville and Conley, and that's a really interesting one to me. I think I took Conley in that game. It's at Conley. Not that home field always means quite as much in high school football, but I think that one will be a really good game. Gatesville is so heavily reliant on Rayshawn Smith, their running back. Not that they can't do some other things too, but he's their bell cow. Really, really good player. Now Conley, they don't have much of a passing game. That's not really what they do. But they can really run the ball with Jamarian Vincent and Braden Ford. So I don't know. I think when it all kind of falls in, I think it's going to be, Conley 3, Gatesville 4. Obviously, for Lorena to get in there, they're going to need a win over La Vega, yeesh, and then they're going to need, to be tied there with Gatesville because they do have the head-to-head over Gatesville. So, that's a pretty tough chore. So I think it'll probably, be chalk. I think, it'll kind of go like we expect. But, man, you never can tell. I mean, and like I said, the recipe is there for a China Spring upset over Robinson.
That's kind of the same thing in the scenario we talked about in 5-3, a three-way tie. If all three of those teams lose, and they're all 1-4, I guess that would be a points deal. Or have you talked to any coaches over there on the three-way tiebreaker? Have you got any?
I haven't. Sometimes you can get in the weeds on this stuff. Yeah, because you're like, is this really going to happen? But it does sometimes pay to know, the crazy scenarios. But we also have a really good web guy that loves high school football at the Trib. And so I rely on him a lot too, because he's out there scouring and figuring out what all these things are.
That's always good. Hey, let's go to 2A D1 District 7. So you got Axtell 4-1, Italy 4-1, Dawson 3-2, Rio 3-2, and Itasca 2-3. So Axtell has Itasca. I think Axtell wins that game. So the thing is, Italy, who beat Axtell earlier in the year, they got beat by Itasca last week. Italy lost their quarterback, Jared Wood, who is a really good quarterback. He runs the ball really well. I saw him. I think it was the kick 6 against Rio. They scored. He had like 2 long runs, and I believe he returned that kick for a 6. So if Dawson can knock off Italy, then that would give Axtell the championship. And then I think if Rio can beat Valley Mills, Coach Woodard, he'll have Rio back in the playoffs. That's a fun district. Axtell's kind of not. I'm not going to say they're stumbling a little bit, but games are probably a little closer than you would think. I was at the Valley Mills game, and Valley Mills was toe-to-toe with them for a while, and Axtell finally took over. I think a turning point was when Colton Horn took a little wide receiver screen, 96 or 94 yards to the house. AJ Fetch kind of, Colton Horn came in for him last week a little bit and played kind of the Wildcat. I don't know that he struggled. I heard is Levi Leathers. I believe is he back this week?
That's what we heard, was that Levi would be back. So that would be huge for Axtell.
Yeah. And I thought Fetch played well enough. Coach, Craig said that, hey, the kid's a heck of an athlete. He's just always been behind Levi. They're both sophomores. So
That's interesting. I'm kind of happy for Rio. That's right down the road from me, about 15, 20 minutes. Coach Woodard's doing a good job over there. A couple of guys I know coach over there. How do you see this shaking out?
Man,
Not to put you on the spot.
as much as we talked about that 5-3A district being so competitive, I mean, you're used to going into week 11 with in a district with probably at least one team undefeated and at least one team in the district who hasn't won a game. In this district, everyone's won at least one game and everyone's lost at least one game. I mean, that to me signals a pretty competitive district where there's not that much separation. I think Axtell and then a healthy Italy are the best two teams, clearly. But yeah, I mean, Itasca steps up and just, basically creates havoc, creates chaos with that win. And to break this one down, oh my gosh, I'm just going to more go with what I think will probably happen. Because that seems to be the simpler way to do this. With a healthy Levi Leathers, I think the Longhorns probably take care of the Wampus Cats this week. That would put them at 5-1. The Italy Dawson game, now that's suddenly very interesting with with the quarterback for Italy out. The Bulldogs are sneaky. So man, I think I picked Italy in that one. I'd have to go back and look at my picks. But it wouldn't stun me at all to see Dawson to pull that one off. That would put them at 4-2. And then you got Rio Vista and Valley Mills. Tough year for Valley Mills, kind of backslid a little bit. So, I mean, I think Rio probably gets that one, also gets to 4-2. So, if it plays out like that, let's just say Dawson does pull off the win. Well, then you've got, three teams sitting there at 4-2 with Italy, Rio, and Dawson, and you'd probably have to figure out the points on that one. But at least the playoff teams would be pretty clear because, it would be, you wouldn't have like 5 teams in there or anything like that fighting for it. It would be Axtell, Italy, Rio, and Dawson. So, I think ultimately that's who it's probably going to be, even if Dawson loses. So, because I do think Axtell probably takes care of Itasca.
Every time I think of Dawson, I think it was about 6 years ago that Boatwright was starting as a freshman, throwing for 3,000 yards for Coach Jimmy Thompson. That he's been there for 4 years, started off 4 years. Offenses kind of changed the way they were with Coach Thompson. But, yeah, I mean, I think Italy, without the quarterback, I just think Dawson beats them. And I think would be I think it's going to be 3 teams at 4-2, and then Axtell will be 5-1. Let's jump down to 2A D1. District 13, of course, Marlin. Looks like Marlin and Riesel, they're going to be 1-2. Bruce Folletti, Riesel game is going to be interesting. I guess the winner of that one will be the 2 seed. Let's see, Crawford. I guess they have a way to the playoffs, I guess.
Yes, they do. They do. I mean, if they can knock off Rosebud Lot, I mean, which again, if we're just thinking about this back in like June, and we're picking Crawford, Rosebud Lot, then we're automatically just putting down Crawford. But obviously, it's been a tough year for the Pirates. They're young. I don't think they're quite as big as some of the Crawford teams that we've gotten accustomed to seeing. But they're sitting there at 1-3, and if they win over Rosebud Lot and get to 2-3, and guess what? I actually picked Crawford to win. I just think there's something about they're going to be playing at home. They've got that playoff pride. I may get that one completely wrong, but I think that there is something to that, and who knows? So Crawford could be a 2-8 playoff team. Which, we've seen that kind of thing before, but that's sometimes what you get with 4 in there. Clearly, Rosebud Lot has a lot to play for. And what a story Bruce Villetti has been. Just last week, they beat Crawford. We looked it up, first time since 1985 that Bruce Villetti has beaten Crawford. Yeah. And those teams have played a lot. So that's big-time stuff for the Eagles, who are doing it with a first-year head coach.
Yeah, I like Marlin. I think 5-0, and Riesel, I think they'll get by Bruce Villetti, and that'll be interesting how the last 2 spots shake out. Let's go.
Hey, let me get my power cord for my computer real quick. You keep talking. I'm gonna grab my power cord.
All right, so we're gonna stay in 2A D1 and go Hamilton De Leon. What district is that? Let me pull that up real quick. Get my trusty Football Friday app out. 2A D1, sorry. That is District 5. So you have a 9-0 Hamilton team, 4-0 in district. They've had a really good district defense in district. They gave up some points in pre-district. They rushed for about over 300 yards against Heiko last week. They're number 10 in the state, going up against De Leon, however you pronounce it. They're 6-3, 4-0 in district. They have 3 losses, but they've lost to number 1 Stanford in 2A D1, number 5 Holly in 2A D1, and number 2 Munster in 2A D2. So I think Matt Stepp, he's got De Leon winning this district. I think it's going to be a great game. They are playing in De Leon, which is right down the road. From not too far for Hamilton to get over there. We might have lost Bryce. I don't know if he's coming back or not. We'll see. So that's going to be a good game. It's hard to find stuff on Hamilton. They don't do max preps. The newspaper, I guess, if they keep winning, I might have to break down and get a subscription to them. I've been high on Hamilton. I think Hamilton, I've had them as that Region 2 favorite. Kind of overlooked De Leon a little bit. I know you've got Axtell and some other dudes, Wolf City and Mildred, kind of on the other side of 35. But man, De Leon's their resume looks really good. All right, I think we lost Bryce. I don't know that he's going to be coming back. I think his computer died on us, so we'll give it a second. We're actually live streaming. Yeah, we lost him. Hey, everybody, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Central Texas Football Podcast. Thank you to L4 Media. Thank you to Ranch Masters Ranch and Home Realty out of Lake Whitney, Texas. Keith Reed, Julie Reed, they run that thing. They do a great job. We appreciate them being a sponsor. Let's see. No, he's not coming back. Let's see. There he is. Let me bring him back on. There's Bryce. There you are.
Sorry. Apologize.
No worries. I know kind of Hamilton's probably a little bit out of y'all's area, but I think it's a great game. I've kind of overlooked De Leon this year. We usually do a Ask Matt Stepp a question of the week, and we talked about Region 2 and 2A D1. And we talked about Hamilton, Axtell, Mildred's undefeated over there, Wolf City, and some teams up north. Kind of overlooked De Leon, but if you look at them, they're 6-3. They're one loss is to number 1 Stanford, to number 5 Holly in 2A D1, and to number 2 Munster in 2A D2. So not a bad resume at all. I mean, those 3, if you want to call them a quality loss, that's what they are. They're 6-3. Hamilton goes to De Leon. Hamilton rushed for over 300 yards against Heiko last week. Their defense has been really good in district. I don't know if that's a product of their opponents or they're just getting better. Have you followed Hamilton any this year? Is that kind of outside y'all's jurisdiction, maybe?
Hamilton is in our coverage area. In fact, they're the only team in that 5-2A district that we do cover. We have found Coach Marwood's a little hard to get a hold of. so that sometimes I think they just think, oh, well, the Trib doesn't cover us or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, to me, they're one of the stories of the Central Texas season. I mean, in terms of what they've been able to do, sitting there at 9-0, 4-0, state ranked, and like you said, coming off of a really good win over, a long-time rival in Hico. I mean, that's a really good low-key rivalry, Hamilton-Hico. It was 36-0 last week. I mean, they've just been, cruising along. I mean, I guess they're out to show they're not just a girls' cross-country school.
Yeah.
Because they're a freaking machine in girls' cross-country. They just won their third straight state championship last weekend.
Yeah, I was on Twitter kind of looking around for something on the football team, and all I kept getting was cross country.
Yeah, they're really good. They have like 9 state championships in their history in cross country.
So we usually don't do this, but let's talk 6-man. You had a big one, Aquila and Abbott this week. Tell us about that one. I mean, I know I live down the road from Aquila. I work with guys from Abbott that are on that have kids on that team. Do you think Aquila's got a chance in this one?
I do think they have a chance. It's not going to be easy. Obviously, Abbott is really good, and they're not only really good, but they're experienced and playoff tested with, Riley Shustala, Mason Hale, and Joey Pavelka. Those kids have been there. They've done that. But DJ was talking to Coach Williams out at Aquila earlier today, I think, and he thought they had a much better chance against Abbott this year than last year. Last year, Aquila was a little beat up with some injuries and stuff. This year, I think they're healthier. They've got a really good freshman named TC Hennig, who's done a little bit of everything. Now, obviously, if you're playing 6-man football, you're doing everything, in terms of offense, defense, special teams, all of it. But he's kind of their go-to guy, and yet they still do have some veteran playmakers too. We're covering this game. I mean, it's that good of a game, I think. 9-0 versus 9-0, state-ranked top 10 6-man game should be a lot of fun. And we've got a kid, Michael Haig, who's a young guy out of Baylor who I gave him the choice of several games, and that was one of them. And he was like, I want to Abbott Aquila. And I'm like, go for it, man. I mean, so that one should be fun.
Well, hey, go ahead and tell us where all y'all going to be this week, Thursday.
Oh,
Friday.
yeah, that's a great question. Let me pull that up. Here we go. Pull it up. So I'll be at the Midway game on Thursday. That's that Midway Copper's Cove game, and then I'm going, since I'll have a Friday night off, I'm gonna go do another game, and that'll be La Vega Arena. DJ is going to. I thought I had a list here and I couldn't find it, but she's going to. Oh gosh. Well, Chad was going to go to West Whitney, and then that one got moved to Thursday, and he's got something Thursday, so we got to figure that out. Who's going to go there? Crap, where is she going? What games are we doing? We're doing all the 12 4A games, because that one's always a fun district. I think We're doing the Riesel Bruceville Eddy game, and the Rosebud Lot Crawford game. Those will be good. Like I mentioned, the Abbott Aquila game. We're usually on a Friday night. I've got such a good stable of freelancers and staff writers that we usually can get to 8 or 9 games, and I feel like that's pretty good. And then obviously we try to follow up on the others, But, and then I'll go ahead and put in a plug if anybody's out there and they're like, I know Texas football has a great statewide scoreboard. But if you're ever, just wanting, hey, what's just the Central Texas scores? I mean, we've been having it for a long time, and our web guy is great. And it's live and updating. So go to wacotrib.com, click on that scoreboard. I don't think that counts as like one of your articles for the month if you don't have a subscription. I think that's something you can look at. So I'll put in a little plug for our live updating scoreboard.
Yeah, I'm a e-subscriber. I've been that way for a long time, and sometimes I use the app, the Friday Night app, and then I'll go to Twitter and watch your scroll on Twitter. And then a lot of times, if I'm at work, I'll have the computer up with y'all's scoreboard. Any other games you can think of that might kind of pique your interest? I know is University kind of in a
that's where DJ is. I'm glad you mentioned it. University. That's where DJ is. So University has Ellison, and if I remember on that one, let me pull those district standings up. I do have that nearby here. So University is 2-2, and Ellison is 3-1. So you think if University is able to win that game, they would get the 2 seed over Ellison. Ain't nobody getting past the Brenham Cubs in that district. They're pretty good. That's my alma mater.
Okay.
Brenham class of 91. So they're stout this year. They've got a running back who's being recruited by everybody.
Really?
So,
that's good.
Yeah, a sophomore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. Hey, Bryce, we appreciate it, man. Thanks for hopping on with us. I know it was short notice. You're not my third choice, but you were my third choice tonight.
No
always
worries.
Fun, man. You're knowledgeable. Always learn a thing in 2 years. So thank you to Ranch Masters Ranch and Home Realty out of Lake Whitney, Texas. Keith Reed and Julie Reed, they do a great job. Thank you for the support. L4 Media, Sideline to Sideline. Thank y'all, and be safe traveling this week. And Bryce, we appreciate it, buddy.
All right. Thanks, Kenny.